UGC NET JRF lectureship coaching. In the previous two sessions, we had indeed a very systematic discussion of the two papers for the examination. In the live streaming first lecture, we discussed the two papers, the general paper as well as the paper 2, the main paper, that is English paper. In detail, we saw the 10 modules of paper 1 as well as the paper 2. Yesterday, we began our discussion of paper 1 as well as paper 2. In fact, we are into serious discussion of these two papers hereafter. As you all know, every day I'm online at 9, maybe sometime 5 minutes early. Sometimes it could be 9:50, 9:20, sometime around. It would be, I will be there live streaming coaching sessions on. So yesterday we discussed, let's just have a discussion of what we did the previous day. Yesterday we discussed paper 1. We know there are 10 units in the syllabus of general paper, and we began the discussion of the first unit, that is teaching and research aptitude. I gave a definition of teaching the other day. Yesterday we defined teaching, what teaching is. We saw some 5 definitions of teaching, and thereafter we just discussed the nature and the characteristics of teaching, and then we just discussed the objectives of teaching in detail, and afterwards we saw some previous question papers. Today we continue the same pattern. First half of the live streaming lecture, I will talk to you about I'll continue my lecture on module 1, teaching and research aptitude. So here today in the discussion of paper 1, general paper, we are discussing 3 main topics. The 3 main topics we discussed today. One is different phases of teaching. Teaching has different phases, and okay, to number them, there are 3 phases for teaching. We will just name the 3 phases. Phase 1 is pre-active stage of teaching, that is planning stage. Stage 2 is interactive stage of teaching, that is implementation stage. And stage 3 or third phase is post-active phase of teaching, evaluation stage. So now that we have seen the 3 phases of teaching, we have to study in detail the 3 phases. Once again, we discuss phases of teaching in the first part of this lecture on general paper. Second part, we will discuss levels of teaching. There are different levels of teaching, and we will discuss the 4 important levels of teaching. I will name the 4 right now. We will learn it in detail later. Good evening, Shilpa. Thanks for joining. You can message your friends and ask them also to join. In fact, today in the first part of our lecture, we are discussing general paper, teaching and research aptitude. I am lecturing initially about the different phases of teaching, and thereafter different levels of teaching. And next, afterwards, we'll be discussing the third topic of general paper. Today is basic requirements of teaching. We'll also discuss the basic requirement of teaching. In fact, some 7 basic teaching has 7 basic requirements. We will discuss all that. So now let us begin our discussion and understanding of the teaching, different phases of teaching. In fact, based on the procedure of teaching, rather, we can divide teaching into 3 sequential steps or phases, and they are pre-active phase of teaching. Pre-active phase of teaching is also known as planning stage. Pre-active phase of teaching is known as planning stage, and the second phase of teaching is interactive phase of teaching, that is implementation stage. Whatever we have planned is implemented in the classroom. And the third phase is post-active phase of teaching, that is evaluation stage. Let us look at pre-active phase in the beginning. So teaching must be done only after careful planning to perform the task smoothly and successfully. So this planning for teaching is what is known as pre-active phase, and the pre-active phase can have two steps. Step one is establishment of objectives or goals. A teacher who is planning to meet a group of students must have a goal or an objective. So I am right now talking to you all, and I have an objective. My purpose, my goal, my objective is to help you pass the national eligibility test for lectureship and junior research fellowship. So with this purpose, I have done some task. I have collected the syllabus. I have prepared enough material for both papers, paper 1 and paper 2. And I know the different modules in paper 1 and paper 2. And now I'm lecturing the different topics in each and every module of paper 1 and paper 2. And I am also discussing questions, possible questions that can come for the national eligibility test. Okay, so this is the objective of the course, right? This is in fact the establishment of objective or goals. So a pre-active phase of teaching, every teacher will plan. Okay, in planning a chapter or unit or a course, the very first should be framing of objectives related to the topic that has to be taught with reference to a period of instruction. The specific instructional objectives are to be written in behavioral terms. So during a period of maybe a month, during a period of maybe, of course, a week, or maybe in 1 hour, how much or what is the objective of the teacher? That is the establishment of objective or goals, the first step of pre-active phase of teaching. Next, we have the second step of pre-active phase, that is deciding ways to achieve these objectives. Okay, so I have the objective of helping the candidates for UGC, JRF, and lectureship examination. So with this objective, I am just deciding ways, okay, how can I help my students get through, pass the national eligibility test. So as the teacher has already identified the specific objectives to be achieved with reference to decide how these specific objectives are to be achieved, this should be done keeping in mind the topic or content to be taught. Okay, so I want my students to pass the national eligibility test, and with that purpose I have decided the ways of helping my students. And okay, so planning or I have planned everything, and planning is done for deciding the different aspects of the student community. Say for example, okay, learning experience to be given, then teaching approach to be followed. How am I going to teach this, and what principles can be followed, teaching aids to be used, time taken to each teach the topic, then management of the classroom, tools to be used for evaluation. Then of course with this we can just achieve the goals of teaching, right? That is pre-active phase. And second phase of teaching is interactive phase. Interactive phase is the very real classroom experience. That is real teaching. Actual teaching is interactive phase. And the for the successful implementation and achievement of the objectives framed in the first phase, the teaching should proceed in an interactive manner. Both students and teachers are involved in this process. This improves the quality of teaching. The activities that take place in this phase can be listed as follows: perception, diagnosis, and reaction process. Okay, so let us understand the three activities that are involved in the interactive phase of teaching. So perception. What is perception? The aspect of perception relates both to the teacher as well as to the students. As for the teacher, he or she must perceive the classroom atmosphere, pre-planning, abilities in interacting with the group. The students on their part have to perceive these aspects of the ability of the teacher, personality, characteristics, and behavior of the teacher from the point of view of a desirable interaction between students and the teacher. And then, of course, we have diagnosis. So we are right now discussing the different activities that take place during the real classroom interactive phase. So we have perception, diagnosis, and reaction process. So diagnosis, what is diagnosis? Diagnosis is the teacher's concern to examine the abilities of the students. Okay, what is the potential of the student, or the student group, and their academic background, their previous knowledge, their intelligence, their aptitude, their interests. Okay, all this is what we mean by diagnosis. So perception, diagnosis, and the third point or aspect is, of course, reaction process. So classroom teaching involves continuous action reaction between teacher and students. So the teacher teaches the student community, and the teacher will, of course, understand whether the students follow whatever is just taught, and based on their reaction, teacher can, of course, change the very methodology or the way of teaching. And this is the second phase of teaching. And now we have to move on to the third phase of teaching, that is the post-active phase of teaching. Post-active phase of teaching refers to the very evaluation activities. Okay, so we have pre-active stage of teaching, planning the objectives, how a particular topic or subject is going to be taught, then real classroom teaching, and teacher changes, okay, different methods, and ensures that the students learn things. And after that, of course, the third phase is post-active phase. Post-active phase is the evaluation. The teacher has to just evaluate the knowledge of the students, and first and foremost, the post-active phase attempts to measure the desirable change in behavior in the students, resulting in achieving of the specific instructional objectives. Some of the general devices adopted for testing this achievement, and of course, the evaluation process can involve tests, that is written tests, examination, quizzes, oral questions, structured and unstructured situations, and behavioral situation. So all these ways the teacher can evaluate the understanding or the learning of students. Okay, so with this we can come to the end of the first topic, that is the phases of teaching, right? Now we have an idea of the three phases of teaching, that is pre-active stage of teaching, interactive stage of teaching, and the post-active stage of teaching. Now we come to different levels of teaching. Okay, as we know, teaching and learning are interrelated, interlinked, and interdependent. This is very important. Teaching and learning process are interrelated, interlinked, and interdependent. Teaching affects learning directly and indirectly both. During teaching and interaction take place between an experienced person, that is the teacher, and of course maybe an inexperienced person, that is the student. And here the main aim is to bring change in behavior of the students. So now let us look at the different levels of teaching. There are 4 levels of teaching. Which are the 4 levels of teaching? One is autonomous development level, that is natural learning, natural teaching. Second is memory or thoughtless teaching, memory or thoughtless teaching. The third level of teaching is understanding, that is thoughtful teaching. And the fourth level of teaching is reflective or upper thoughtful level. So now these are the 4 levels of teaching. We have teaching has different levels. The 4 levels of teaching are autonomous development level, memory level, understanding level, and reflective level. So let us look at each of these levels of teaching. What is autonomous development level or naturally teaching? It is first student-centered development level. There is little or no leadership direction, pressure, prescription, or impression of student thought or behavior. Intellectual development is something that just naturally, the obvious implications of this is that there is no need for any kind of formal teaching. So in level 1 of teaching or learning or understanding happens naturally. There is no formal teaching as such. Teaching takes place slowly, gradually, and naturally. And now level 2 of teaching. Level 2 of teaching is known as memory level. And memory level teaching is also known as thoughtless teaching. And what is thoughtless teaching? Teaching at the memory level represents the involvement of thoughtless level or least thoughtful behavior. In memory level, presentation, trainings, and exercise play a very important role in promoting learning. So this is the second level of teaching. The teaching has 4 levels: autonomous development level or natural level, memory level or thoughtless level, and the third level is understanding level or thoughtful level. Understanding levels means to grasp the idea of or to comprehend something. In understanding level of teaching, teacher stresses or teacher tries to make understand the learners the generalizations, principles, and facts. Content is presented, and proper analysis is done, summarization, conclusion is done, and this is the level in which more student and teacher interaction and interdependence take place. So third level of teaching, understanding level or thoughtful teaching. So now we are in the initial part of this lecture. We are discussing paper 1, teaching research aptitude, and we are discussing different levels of teaching. Teaching has 4 levels, and we are discussing the second level, right? We have finished the first 3. One more is pending. The first level is autonomous development level. Second is memory level, and third is understanding level. Now we move on to the fourth level of teaching, that is reflective or upper thoughtful level. So reflective or upper thoughtful level is also known as introspective level. Introspective level. And here what happens is reflecting on something means giving careful thought to something over a period. So we have learned a particular subject over a period of 1 month or 2 months or maybe a semester, and we are just contemplating, reflecting, just thinking over, pondering over whatever we learned. And this is the fourth level of teaching. And in this fourth level, the reflective level, we have problem raising, problem solving, and all that. So these are in fact the different levels of teaching. So maybe exam point of view, examination, of course, we can expect a very short questions like what is the autonomous or in natural level of teaching, or what is the reflective level of teaching, likewise. Now we come to the third topic of discussion of teaching today, and that is, of course, the basic requirements of teaching. What are the basic requirements of teaching? Okay, so there are in fact 7 basic requirements for teaching. So your national eligibility test examination, you will be given 4 options, and maybe one of the options can be a basic requirement of teaching, and you may have to answer like which of the following is a basic requirement of teaching. Okay, so let's forget the question right now. Now let us look at the basic requirements of teaching. Teaching theoretically has 7 basic requirements, and the 7 basic requirements of teaching are: number 1 is teacher. Okay, number 2, it's very simple and easy to understand. Number 2 is learner or students. Number 3 is subject or a topic for discussion. Number 4 is environment. Okay, the teaching learning process has to take place in an environment. It could be a classroom environment, it could be a school environment, it can be a college or a campus environment. So similarly, the basic requirements of teaching: teacher, learner, student, environment, infrastructure like the classroom, the library, the blackboard, of course the furniture, all right, and all the teaching aids required, the building required, then technological facility, the devices required, all that is infrastructure. Then teacher and student relationship, that is also another very important requirement of teaching. Then student discipline is the 7th requirement of teaching. Okay, so with this we just come to the end of the discussion of the topics for today. So today we have so far discussed different phases of teaching. We also discussed different levels of teaching, and now we have discussed basic requirements of teaching. So I'm just consolidating the phases of teaching. There are 3 phases of teaching: pre-active stage of teaching, interactive stage of teaching, post-active phase of teaching. And now second topic, levels of teaching. 4 levels of teaching: autonomous development level or natural level, memory or thoughtless teaching, understanding or thoughtful teaching, reflective or upper thoughtful level, and the third topic, basic requirements of teaching, 7 basic requirements. Okay, now we move on to the previous questions which can come from the general paper, possible questions which can come for paper 1 general paper. So the first question is, like these are all multiple choice objective type questions, and the first question is: the most appropriate meaning of learning is. That is the question. What is the most appropriate meaning of learning? We have four options. Option A, acquisition of skills. Option B, modification of behavior. Option C, personal adjustment. Option D, inculcation of knowledge. So the most appropriate meaning of learning is, and the correct answer is option B, modification of behavior. Now the next question, for an efficient and durable learning, learner should have, we have four options. For an efficient and durable learning, learner should have dash. A, ability to learn only. B, requisite level of motivation only. C, opportunities to learn only. D, desired level of ability and motivation. And the correct answer is desired level of ability and motivation. Now we come to question number 3 for today. Which one is the highest order of learning? We have four levels of orders of learning, and which one is the highest order of learning? Option A, chain learning. Option B, problem solving learning. Option C, stimulus response learning. Option D, conditional reflex learning. And the correct answer is the fourth option, option D, conditional reflex learning. Now we come to the next question. Achievement tests are commonly used for the purpose of dash. Okay, achievement tests are, we have evaluation, tests, unit tests, internal examination, external examination, all that. So the question is, achievement tests are commonly used for the purpose of option A, making selections for a specific job. Option B, selecting candidates for a course. Option C, identifying strengths and weaknesses of learners. Option D, assessing the amount of learning after teaching. Okay, so the correct answer is option D, assessing the amount of learning after teaching. Now we have the fifth question, and the fifth question is, which of the following is the highest level of cognitive ability? Which of the following is the highest level of cognitive ability? Let us look at the options. Option A, knowing. Option B, understanding. Option C, analyzing. And option D, evaluating. Which of the following is the highest level of cognitive ability? And the answer is option D, evaluating. The highest level of cognitive ability is evaluating. Now, the next question. As chairman of an independent commission on education, Jacques Delors' report to UNESCO was titled, four titles, which is the correct answer, was titled A, International Commission on Education Report. B, Millennium Development Report. C, Learning, the Treasure Within. D, World Declaration, Education for All. And the correct answer is, as the chairman of an independent commission on education, Jacques Delors' report to UNESCO was titled, option C, Learning, the Treasure Within. Learning, the Treasure Within. Now we move on to the next question. For a teacher, which of the following method would be correct for writing on the blackboard? This is about the use of blackboard. For a teacher, which of the following method would be correct for writing on the blackboard? Option A, writing fast as clearly as possible. Option B, writing the matter first and then asking students to read it. Option C, asking a question, students, and then writing the answer as stated by them. Then writing the important points as clearly as possible. And the correct answer is writing the important points as clearly as possible. Okay, so that is the answer. Now, we move on to the next question. Next question is, effective teaching is a function of a teacher's satisfaction. Effective teaching is a function of a teacher's satisfaction. Okay, option A, a teacher satisfaction. Option B, teachers' honesty and commitment. Option C, teachers making students learn and understand. Option D, teachers liking for professional excellence. So, effective teaching is a function of dash, and the correct answer is option C, teachers making students learn and understand. Now, the next question, which of the following facts does not impact teaching? Which of the following facts does not impact teaching? Option A, teachers' knowledge. Option B, classroom activities that encourage learning. Option C, socioeconomic background of teachers and students. Option D, learning through experience. So, which of the following facts does not impact teaching? And the correct answer is socio-economic background of teachers and students. That is the third option, option C. Now we move on to the next question, and the next question is, the Planning Commission in India is dash. The Planning Commission in India is option A, a statutory body. Option B, an advisory body. Option C, a constitutional body. And option D, an independent and autonomous body. And the correct answer is option B, an advisory body. The Planning Commission of India is an advisory body. Okay, now we move on to the next question. Value education should dash. Value education should dash. So option A, familiarize students with all the virtues of life. Option B, enable students to develop a scale of values by themselves. Option C, teach students to distinguish between right and wrong. Option D, develop interest in students to read about values. And the correct answer is option B, enable students to develop a scale of values by themselves. I repeat the question. Value education should enable students develop a scale of values by themselves. Next question. Which of the following learner characteristics are likely to influence the effectiveness of teaching aids and evaluation systems to ensure positive result? Option A, learner's family background, age, and habitation. Option B, learner's stage of development, social background, and personal interest. Option C, learner's maturity level, academic performance level, and motivational dispositions. Option D, learner's parentage, socioeconomic background, and performance in learning of the subject. And the correct answer is learner's maturity level, academic performance level, and motivational dispositions. Now we come to the next question. A teacher is introducing a new subject when meeting the class for the first time. It would be best if he does. We have four options. Option A, begin the first lesson without delay. Straight away, begin the first lesson. Option B, give the class a broad outline of the subject. Option C, begin at once with the review of the relevant material of the previous grade. Option D, concrete on identifying potential troublemakers and learners of the classroom mischief. The correct answer to the question, a teacher is introducing a new subject when meeting the class for the first time. It would be best if he, option B, give the class a broad outline of the subject. Now we come to the next question, and this is question number 14. And the summative evaluation is used dash. Summative evaluation is used. Okay, option A, at the start of the program, at the middle of the program, at the end of the program, and option B, none of the above. Okay, so we have 4 options. The summative evaluation is used, option A, at the start of the program, option B, at the middle of the program, option C, at the end of the program, and the answer is option C, at the end of the program. Okay, so with that, we come to the end of the discussion of paper 1. So we have discussed different 3 topics of teaching, and now we have discussed some questions. We have found the answers, and we are halfway through the session. And in the next session, second session of this live streaming, as we do every day, we discuss the paper 2, the main paper, and that is of course the English. And now we have to discuss probable questions for the national eligibility test, English. And here I will just read out the previous questions and answers. First question. Today we are discussing questions from William Shakespeare, and there will be a lot of questions from Shakespeare. So the first question is, with this key Shakespeare unlocked his heart, said Wordsworth. What was the key? And the answer is the sonnets. Now the next question. Who called Shakespeare an upstart crow beautified with our feathers? Who called Shakespeare an upstart crow beautified with our feathers? Answer is Robert Greene. Robert Greene called Shakespeare an upstart crow beautified with our feathers. Next question. In King Lear, one goes blind and one begins to see. Who gets sight? And who gets sight in King Lear is the very king himself. Next question. In which Shakespeare play do we come across the word honorificabilitudinatibus? Okay, and the word honorificabilitudinatibus comes in Love's Labour's Lost. Next question. Who remarked that if Cleopatra's nose were a little shorter, the history of the world would have been different? Who remarked that if Cleopatra's nose were a little shorter, the history of the world would have been different? And it was a remark from Pascal, Pascal. Now we move on to the next question. Name the editors of the first folio of Shakespeare's plays. Very important question. Who are the editors of the first folio of Shakespeare? And the answer is Henry Condell and John Hemming. Henry Condell and John Hemming are the editors of Shakespeare's first folio. Okay, next question. Name the rebellion in Henry IV Part 1. Name the rebellion in Henry IV Part 1. The rebellion in Henry IV Part 1 is the rebellion of the Percys. The rebellion of the Percys. Next question. Complete the line. Shall I compare thee to a dash? Completed. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Next question. The total number of Shakespeare's sonnets is very easy. Everybody knows 154. Next question. The first folio of Shakespeare's plays was published in the year 1622. Next question. What is the source of the comedy of errors? And the answer, the source of the comedy of errors is Plautus Menaechmi. Next question. Name two Shakespearean heroes who are destroyed by their own virtues. Name two Shakespearean heroes who are destroyed by their own virtues. Okay, the two Shakespearean heroes who are destroyed by their own virtues are Hamlet and Brutus. Hamlet and Brutus. Next question. Which Shakespearean play was called the most elemental and primeval by Swinburne? The play King Lear. King Lear was called by Swinburne as the most elemental and primeval play of Shakespeare. In which play is, next question, in which play is the fool not actually a fool? In King Lear, the fool is not actually a fool. Now the next question, who says, as flies to wanton boys are we to the gods, they kill us for their sport? And answer is Gloucester in King Lear. Gloucester in King Lear. Next question. Which is the most spacious of Shakespeare's tragedies? The most spacious of Shakespeare's tragedies is Antony and Cleopatra. Antony and Cleopatra. Okay. Next question. Who has been named by Coleridge the loveliest of Shakespearean characters? Okay. And the loveliest of Shakespearean characters is Helena in All's Well That Ends Well. Now the next question, in which play is the analogy of two buckets used? In which play is the analogy of the two buckets used? And the answer is Richard II. Richard II is the play in which the analogy of the two buckets used. Next question, what is the meaning of measure for measure? Measure for measure means an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Next question. Who is described as Duke of Dark Corners? Who is described as Duke of Dark Corners? Duke of Dark Corners is Duke Vincento in Measure for Measure. Now we have the next question. And who reproduced King Lear with a comic ending, and that is Alan Tate. Not Alan Tate, Nahum Tate, Nahum, Nahum Tate. Nahum Tate reproduced King Lear with a comic ending. Now we have the next question. What is the source of the subplot in King Lear? The source of the subplot in King Lear is Sydney's Arcadia. Sydney's Arcadia. Okay, now we come to the next question. That is, what is the name of the fool in King Lear? Name of the fool in King Lear. The fool in the King Lear is unnamed. It's unnamed. Now the next question. What according to Lear is sharper than a serpent's tooth? What, according to Lear, is sharper than a serpent's tooth? To have a thankless child is sharper than a serpent's tooth. Next question. What is the symbolic meaning of the fool fading away when King Lear has gone utterly mad? What is the symbolic meaning of the fool fading away when King Lear has gone utterly mad? In madness, the king has become fully wise, and he needs no fool to expose the ridiculous in him. Next question. Which Shakespearean character says, I stumbled when I saw? Which Shakespearean character says, I stumbled when I saw? The answer is Gloucester in King Lear. Gloucester in King Lear is the Shakespearean character who said, I stumbled when I saw. Next question. Who was the contemporary poet of Shakespeare who praised him as the soul of the age and star of poets? And the answer is Ben Jonson. Ben Jonson was the poet who praised Shakespeare as the soul of the age and star of poets. Next question. Who wrote, would Shakespeare or would he had blotted 1,000 lines Answer Ben Jonson. Ben Jonson in Timber or Discoveries Made Upon Men and Matter wrote, who would he had blotted 1,000 lines. Now the next question, what were Reimer's objections to Othello? Reimer's objections to Othello: Othello's love and jealousy are no part of a soldier's character, and a mere handkerchief is given undue importance. Now, the next question, who is the author of Knocking on the Gate in Macbeth? The author of Knocking on the Gate in Macbeth is De Quincey. De Quincey is the author of Knocking on the Gate in Macbeth. Next question, who is the author of How Many Children Had Lady Macbeth? Who wrote the title, the book, How Many Children Had Lady Macbeth? L.C. Knight is the author of the text, How Many Children Had Lady Macbeth? Now, the next question, 32. Question number 32 is the question we discussed now. Who initiated the psychoanalytic technique of the study of clusters and recurrent images in Shakespearean criticism? The answer is Miss F.E. Spurgeon, Caroline Spurgeon. Okay. Now the next question, who adopted the method of poetic interpretation in Shakespearean criticism, the method of viewing each play as a visionary whole, as an expanded metaphor? The answer is J. Wilson Knight. Next question, which modern critic examined the Saturnalian elements in Shakespeare's comedies? And the answer is C.L. Barker in his Shakespeare's Festive Comedy. Next question, who said Shakespeare is not of an age but for all time? Answer is Ben Jonson. Ben Jonson said Shakespeare is not of an age but for all time. Next question, in how many Shakespearean plays do we see a character named Antonio? Okay, Antonio is one of the favorite names of Shakespeare. And in how many Shakespearean plays do we see a character named Antonio? Answer is 5 of Shakespearean plays we have the character named Antonio. Next question, what was the character of Falstaff originally called in Shakespeare's Merry Wives of Windsor? Answer is Sir John Oldcastle. Okay, so Falstaff was originally called Sir John Oldcastle. Next question, name a printer of the first folio editions of Shakespeare. And a printer of the first folio edition of Shakespeare is William Jaggard. William Jaggard. Next question, who was the notorious fabricator who forged Shakespeare's deeds and signature and also wrote Henry II in forged hand? Answer is William Henry Ireland. Next question, on which day was Julius Caesar assassinated? Julius Caesar was assassinated on March 15th March. Next question, who is the only Irishman presented in Shakespeare's plays? The only Irishman presented in Shakespeare's plays is Captain MacMorris. Next question, in which play do we see the 3 pages, which are the only non-examples of Shakespeare's original composition? Answer is Sir Thomas More. Next question, name the friend of last one of the 5 that harass poor Tom in King Lear, that is Obidicut. Which of Shakespeare's plays can be termed pastoral? As You Like It of Shakespeare can be termed pastoral. Name the 2 gentlemen of Verona. The 2 gentlemen of Verona are Valentine and Proteus. Okay, Valentine and Proteus. Now the next question, when were the Shakespearean sonnets first published? Shakespearean sonnets were first published in 1609. Name the play which is about a pair of star-crossed lovers, Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet is a play of Shakespeare which is about star-crossed lovers. Next question, name the play in which touched on the fool appears. As You Like It is the play of Shakespeare in which touched on the fool is scene. Now we have the next question, and the question is, which of Shakespeare's comic characters sneers at the Puritans as the enemies of cake and ale in which play? Answer is Sir Toby Belch in Twelfth Night. Toby Belch in Twelfth Night. And now we have the next question. Mention two noble characters of Shakespearean tragedies who pretend to be mad in order to mislead their enemies. And the answer is Prince Hamlet in Hamlet and Edgar in King Lear. And now we have the next question, and that is, which Shakespearean tragic hero declares that life is a tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury signifying nothing? Answer is Macbeth. Next question, which comedy does the character Puck appear? Okay, and the answer, Puck, the character, is a fairy and the servant of Oberon, the king of fairies, and Puck appears in the drama A Midsummer Night's Dream. A Midsummer Night's Dream. Okay, next question, name two heroines of Shakespeare who commit suicide. Two heroines of Shakespeare who commit suicide. And the answer is Lady Macbeth in Macbeth and Ophelia in Hamlet are the heroines of Shakespeare who commit suicide. Now we have the next question. Why is one of the sonnets of Shakespeare known as Mortal Moon Sonnet? One of the Shakespeare's sonnets is known as Mortal Moon Sonnet because it contains the line, the mortal moon hath her eclipse endured. Now the next question, which of Shakespeare's tragic heroes reminds us most of Marlowe's Edward II? Answer is Richard II. Next question, name an important character in one of the last plays of Shakespeare who pretends to be a statue. And the answer is Hermione, the wife of Leontus, king of Sicilia, pretends to be a statue in Winter's Tale. And the next question, which Shakespearean character asks, since no man owes of aught he lives, what is it to live betimes? And the answer is Hamlet. Okay, next question. How was Shakespeare intended to Giovanni Florio? Shakespeare was intended to Giovanni Florio because Giovanni Florio's English translation of essays of Montaigne was the source of some philosophical passages in Shakespeare's plays. Okay, with that, we end today's discussion. Thanks a lot for listening. Take care, everybody. May God bless you. Thank you. Good night.